Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. In today's session we are going to discuss about the mechanism of breathing in human beings. What is this breathing? Breathing is a process by which we are inhaling the air inside our body and we are exhaling out the air. Right. Now this inhaled air is of course rich in oxygen, isn't it? And then this oxygen is diffused inside in the lungs, in the alveoli present in the lungs, and then further this oxygen helps in the oxidation of glucose material, which provides us the energy, and thus we are able to perform all our activities. Right. Besides this, when the oxidation occurs, there is a production of carbon dioxide also. So this carbon dioxide, it has to be eliminated. Right. So it is reaching the lungs or in the alveoli present in the lungs through the blood, and then this carbon dioxide, it is now exhaled out along with the air which is actually breathed out from the body. So this breathing is an essential step which is taking place during the process of respiration. Without breathing, respiration cannot occur. So respiration is a combination of breathing plus the oxidation of the glucose. So in today's session we will discuss about this breathing part, and then in the further sessions we will discuss about the respiration also, that how this oxidation of glucose occurs. So to explain breathing, let us just have a look over the picture. See, this is a picture of respiratory system, the human respiratory system. Right. We all know, since very junior classes you must be studying about this respiratory system and how the air is going inside this particular system. So here these are the nostrils. From here the air from external part or from outside is inhaled inside. Right. And from here, that is a nasal cavity, here it is partially filtered, and then this filtered moist and warm air is then further passed into the further part of the respiratory system. It is going to reach this tubular structure which is supported by the C-shaped cartilaginous ring, and this tubular structure is known as the trachea. From here this trachea is further get bifurcated, and each branch enters into the lungs further. Now after entering inside these muscular lungs here, these branches, it gets furthermore much more branched. Right. So each branch that is entering inside the lung is known as the bronchi, and further the small branches would be known as the primary bronchioles, secondary bronchioles, and terminal bronchioles. And further these terminal and the secondary bronchioles, they are forming some solen bag-like structures or the sac-like structures which are having the cavity inside. And these type of space which are surrounded by the membrane, the thin membrane, they are known as the alveoli. Right. So this is a brief structure, this is a brief account of the respiratory system. Now the point is that how the air is going inside these alveoli, and then from alveoli how the air is actually getting out of the system. So for that we must understand the basic muscles or the basic tissues which are present here that are supporting the respiratory system. And those particular structures, those tissues, those muscles are responsible to carry out the process of breathing. Whether it is the breathing inside the air or it is breathing out of the air. The process by which the air is entering inside the alveoli, that part of breathing is known as the inhalation process. Right. And removing out of the foul air from the body is known as exhalation. So breathing here is divided into two phases, that is inhalation and the exhalation. So let us just brief out that how this inhalation and exhalation occurs. See, this respiration is a very important process that occurs in our body, isn't it? Now and of course it is a continuous process. This process is taking place all the time, whether you are sleeping, you are waking, you are doing your some important work, whatever the stage is, this process is essentially required for the survival of a living organism. isn't it? Now for this particular process, as it is taking place continuously, and of course it needs a lot of protection then. So this protection here is provided by the specific skeleton or these bones here, which we call as the ribs. There are the ribs which are forming a rib cage over there, over the lungs inside our thoracic cavity, and of course these ribs, they are provided with some muscles, and these muscles are known as the intercostal muscles. So one of the way to carry out the process of exhalation or the inhalation, these intercostal muscles which are present in between the ribs, they are playing a very important role. Beside this, this particular process is supported by the muscles which are supporting the diaphragm. Diaphragm is a dome-shaped structure which is separating the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. So, of course, these lungs are present above the this dome-shaped structure that is known as the diaphragm. Now let us find out that how these muscles which are associated with the ribs and the diaphragm, they are supporting the process of the inhalation as well as the exhalation. So the first part of breathing is what? It is inhalation, right? Inhalation means what? Taking inside the air, intake of the air from outside, right? Now this inhaled air is of course rich in oxygen. There is around 21% of oxygen which is present here in this fresh air, isn't it? Beside this, the concentration of carbon dioxide is very low and is something near about 0.03%. Right. Now as this oxygen is rich, further it needs to be diffused. But the point is that this air, it has to fill the cavity inside the lungs. Now cavity inside the lungs, what we mean by that is the alveoli. The cavity which is present inside the alveoli, and these alveoli, or we can say millions of alveoli, they reside inside the lungs, right? So how this this cavity is going to be filled? Second point is that when the air is filling inside this space or the alveoli, definitely they are going to get swell up, isn't it? And as they swell, they need some more space, isn't it? They will occupy more space. That means there must be some space present inside the thoracic cavity where the lungs can expand. So this expansion is actually supporting the process of inhalation. So how this expansion will occur? That expansion is actually under the control of the intercostal muscles and the muscles which are associated with the diaphragm. Right? So initially what happens during the process of inhalation is the intercostal muscles which are present between the ribs, they tend to contract. Now as they contract, you know what, see, these are the ribs here, you can see these here. Now these ribs are having the intercostal muscles in between them, and as they contract, these ribs, they tend to move in the outward direction. You can imagine your own chest cavity. You just try to breathe in, and what do you observe? Your chest, it is getting something expanded, isn't it? In the outward direction and in the forward direction, isn't it? And why is this so? This is practically possible because of the contraction of the intercostal muscles. As these muscles contract, they pull the ribs in the outward and the forward direction. So now as these ribs, they are getting they are moving outward or forward, then what will happen? The inner space is automatically going to increase, and as this space increases inside these lungs, they get space to expand. So this is how, as the space is available, the alveoli can the air can be filled inside the alveoli, and thus the lungs can get expanded. Beside this, what happens further? There is the presence of this diaphragm here. Now diaphragm is the cartilaginous structure, and in the corners or over there, it is supported by the muscles over there. Now these muscles, they contract over there, the muscles which are associated with the diaphragm, they tends to contract, due to which the diaphragm is moving downwards. And of course from the dome shape it tends to become flattened over there, somewhat flattened structure. Now as it gets flattened, that means it is moving downward. So what will happen? The space is more and more space would be available inside this thoracic cavity, and thus the overall volume of thoracic cavity is going to increase. Now due to such increase in thoracic cavity, more and more expansion can occur, and thus the air fills the lungs quite well, and they tends to swell up. Now as they swell up, the air is present inside, and out of this air further the diffusion process can occur. The exchange of gases can occur between the alveolar membrane and the blood capillaries. So this is how the inhalation occurs. Inhalation is concerned only with the inhaling of the air, or the inhalation of the air. Further, when the diffusion starts and it is transported to the target site, then it will come under the process of the respiration. So now on one side the inhalation is it has occurred. Now on the other hand, further exhalation should also take place, and for that the reverse of this process is going to occur. Let us see how it happens. As inhalation is the intake of air, exhalation is the removal of air from the body. Right. So for this thing, the air which is filled inside these alveoli, now it has to pushed out, isn't it? Now how this pushing is going to occur? It is again associated with the functioning of intercostal muscles and the muscles which are associated with the diaphragm. So what happens here is, these intercostal muscles between the ribs, they tends to relax. Now as they relax, what will happen? These ribs, they tend to pull inside. So they will come back to the, it is pushed inside. So as it is pushed inside, it is going to exert some pressure over the lungs also, isn't it? Now ribs are taking the normal shape. Similarly, on the other hand, the diaphragm is the muscles which are associated with the diaphragm, they are also going to get relaxed, and as a result the diaphragm becomes dome shaped again. That means it moves upward. So this upward, inward, this movement of the ribs and the diaphragm, it is going to push it is going to exert the pressure over the lungs, and of course due to which the air filled inside it tends to move outside. See what happens as it is pushed inside these ribs and the diaphragm. So what is happening? The internal cavity, internal thoracic cavity, the volume of internal thoracic cavity is decreasing here. Right, and due to this decrease, the pressure is exerted over the lungs, and thus this pressure is exerted further over the alveoli, and thus the air which is filled inside those alveoli, it tends to move into the tubular parts, that is the bronchioles, and then further the trachea, and thus from the trachea the air is actually exhaled out of the body through the nostrils. So this is how the breathing is taking place. Now after the exhalation, the lungs, they tend to get shrink, and of course the process is now over. So at a time, breathing is completed in two phases, that is inhalation and exhalation. After exhalation, again the inhalation is going to begin. So this cycle is taking place continuously in our body so as to carry out the process of the breathing. And further, this is linked with the respiration, it is supporting the process of respiration. So further we will find out that how the respiration is going to take place further. So for now only this much. We'll come back soon. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.